So, the 45-45 90 rule. Remember, they may mark this as they might just put in 145. They might put that the two legs are the same, or they might just put the arcs to show they're the same. But anyway, on a 45-45, the legs are the same. The hypotenuse is just whatever the leg is times the square root of 2. And the leg is half of the hypotenuse times the square root of 2. So, the rules for this one, actually when you take a ACT test, this is on the formula sheet. They don't write it out like this. They'll just put a picture of a 45-45 and they'll put in there like, this is x, this is x, this is x square root of 2. So that tells you the legs are the same, and this is the leg times the square root of 2. If you forget these rules on this one, you can always use the Pythagorean theorem. That does work. Now, the 30, 60, 90s, you can't use the Pythagorean theorem because you don't know enough information. So you have to know these rules. You just got to, however you can memorize them, you need to memorize them. On a 30, 60, 90, they'll either put in there that it's a 60 degree or the 30. And you need to recognize if one's 30, the other one's 60. Okay? So, in this, everyone knows how to spot the hypotenuse, right?
Yeah, it's along the
Okay. Now, obviously, the legs are not the same length, like on the 45-45. So to distinguish between them, all they do is they call this the short leg and the long leg, right? So, here is the rules. The easiest ones is if you know the short leg. If you know the short leg, the hypotenuse is just double it.
Wait, if you know this.
Okay? So the hypotenuse is 8. And then the long leg
It's the same.
is whatever the short leg is times, and this is where it's different, the square root of 3. So on the 30, 60, 90s, it's square root of 3, not square root of 2.
Okay.
So this would just be
4
4 square roots of 3. Okay? Now, that's the easiest when they give you the short leg. It's just about as easy when they give you the hypotenuse. The short leg is just half the hypotenuse, right? So that'd be 5. 5 square roots of 3. Okay? Now this is the one rule that is the most confusing. When they start off by giving you the long leg. If they give you the long leg, you got to first find the short leg. And it is half the short leg. No, let me write it this way. It's the short leg, or I mean the long leg, times the square root of 3, kind of like this, but then it is divided by 3. So it's not half like in the hypotenuse, it's a third actually. It's a third of the hypotenuse times the square root of 3. So it's very similar to this. You take half of that times the square root of 2. Here you take half of, or a third of this, which would be 4 times the square root of 3. And then this is always double that. So it's just 8 square roots of 3. A square root you gotta consider like an x. If this is 4 x's, you just double it, you get 8 x's. Okay? Whenever you double something, you only multiply the outside number. The inside number under the square root stays the same. Now, if it's odd, or say it's a number like that, you can't divide that by 3, so you just write it just like this. It's just 10 square roots of 3 over 3. You can't reduce 10 over 3. And then when you double it, all you got to do is double this number. 20 square roots of 3 over 3. Okay? If this is a number that does divide by 3, you don't need to simplify. I mean, if you don't recognize it, you could just write this as 15 square roots of 3 over 3, because that's what it tells you to do. And then this is double that, 30 square roots of 3 over 3. So then if you did realize that can reduce, 15 over 3 is 5 square roots of 3. 30 over 3 is 10 square roots of 3. It's still doubled. So, those are the rules for the 30, 60, 90. So again, you're either going to be given, that's why the the Pythagorean theorem doesn't work. It's because you only know one thing. On a 45-45, you always know these two are equal. So that's why this Pythagorean theorem does work. So, if you're given the short leg, the hypotenuse then would be 10 double. The long leg is 5 square roots of 3. If you remember these rules, they're simple. If you're given the hypotenuse, I'll just make it an odd number. This is half of it, 4.5. This would be
4.5 square roots of 3.
Right. And again, in the book, if you look at any answers, they don't put them as decimals, and it's fine if you do. They just leave it as 9 halves, and then 9 halves square roots of 3. Okay, either way is fine. And then if we know this, nope, wrong one, the long leg I meant. That's the tough one to remember. 11 square roots of 3 over 3. You don't need to reduce, this one doesn't reduce. 11 over 3 won't simplify. So then the hypotenuse is just double that. Remember, all you got to do is double that number. It's 22 square roots of 3 over 3. Okay? So, we have some problems today where you got to find area. A lot of times they deal with equilateral triangles. Since it's an equilateral triangle, what kind of what is it? 60, 60, 60. And remember, the area is base times height divided by 2. So you need to know what this is. So if they tell you that one side of this is, say, 10, you know this is 5 right here, right? And then that would be 5 square roots of 3, right? So then the area is the base, which is 10, times the height, divided by 2. Don't forget that. So you'd get 50 square roots of 3 divided by 2, which you could simplify to 25 square roots of 3. Okay? All right. So that's what we're doing today is the 30, 60, 90s, and then there's a few of the equilateral, where we got to find the area. So remember, area is base times height divided by 2. You want to go over some more?
No.
No?